Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the White Wolf. That's the lady you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations and everything else. So let's get right into it. What this is going to be about is something I haven't really done ever since I upgraded my video quality on the channel by means of having better hardware. A shotgunner. Very straightforward here. We're going to use VATS, which in my opinion is an absolute must have in order to make a shotgunner viable. And a bit more interesting here, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a look at one specific shotgun, the fancy shotgun, which you can get from turning in Pleasant Valley claim tickets at the top of the mountain. You can turn them in by a robot, and you have it's a very low chance. I think it's a 1% chance, something about that. And I really slept on this weapon for a while because if you look at it, it's nothing too spectacular on first hand. Like it's a anti-armor pump action shotgun with 50% more limb damage and 50 DR while aiming. I mean, anti-armor is actually my favorite effect when it comes to shotguns, simply because armor penetration is their biggest weakness, so the anti-armor effect really makes a lot of sense on shotguns. But other than that, limb damage I'm not particularly fond of. It's especially useless on shotguns in my opinion, for the simple reason that you do have Enforcer, which is a very potent perk to cripple limbs and is way more effective than you're ever going to be by just crippling a limb through shooting it. I mean, you're using Enforcer by shooting your enemy's limbs too, but I think you get what I'm talking about here. And lastly, well, 50 damage resistance while aiming is in and of itself not one of the best perks in my opinion. 50 DR simply doesn't make a whole lot of a difference in most scenarios. And furthermore, as I said really in the beginning of the video, like a few seconds ago, shotguns really need to be used in VATS. Like, free aiming shotguns isn't a good idea. It basically never is a go-to idea. I did one video where I used a stealth shotgunner, was actually a berserker, if I recall correctly, and I used a berserker's explosive combat shotgun combined with stealth in order to get away with free aim, but even then it's not the best go-to approach. It's just you can get enough damage so you don't need VATS necessarily. But still, VATS is the best effect or best go-to for shotguns. So that effect also is relatively pointless. Therefore, as I said, I really slept on the weapon. I never really bothered to farm it or buy it, because I just thought, yeah, well, it's okay, it's a cool weapon and such. But like last week, I found one in a vendor for relatively cheap. I think it was something like 2,000 caps or something, and I thought, well, just give it a try. Haven't made a shotgunner build in a while, and first and foremost, what I do love is the aesthetic. It's something I really miss in these games, that a lot of the quest rewards, a lot of the unique weapons, so to speak, that you get are actually not all that unique. They're just basically the same weapon with as you can find in the base game, with some pre-made legendary effects, which you can also get. Look at things like the Unstoppable Monster when it first came out. Nowadays it has a unique skin as well, and that's just something I really appreciate and I want to see more of, and I think Bethesda is on a good track when it comes to this. They certainly seem to put more effort into this lately, and yeah, a lot of speak about something that's pretty obvious here. It has a cool skin, but furthermore, what I was surprised to see is when I was looking at the weapon, I actually had an anti-armor better VATS crit pump action shotgun in my stash, and it was fully modded, so having a hardened receiver and everything. And first thing I noticed was that the fancy pump action shotgun actually has more base damage than the the standard pump action shotgun, which was a nice surprise. So this is already something I would say, yeah, sure, I take it. More base damage, that's nice. Another odd thing about the fancy pump action shotgun here is you can't modify it. It basically just turns visible on your weapons workbench if it has to be repaired, but other than that you can't do anything to it. It comes completely pre-modified and that's it. What I did is I just researched a little bit and looked at the Fallout wiki, and what I found was very interesting. Um, while the legendary effects, other than the anti-armor effect, seem to be very, well, underwhelming on the weapon, it actually comes with some other effects that aren't really legendary effects, but come from certain unique modifications that the weapon seems to be equipped with. Um, my guess is that this is something that just data miners have found out, but anyways, that those effects make the weapon really great in my opinion, just from finding it out. Now, one thing that's obviously, and that you could find out without using the wiki, is that the weapon has actually quite a bit more magazine capacity than the standard version. In the standard pump action shotgun you have 8 shots, here you do have 12, which is a significant increase and definitely helps the weapon. And the other more important thing here was that the fancy pump action shotgun actually has a unique, magazine that gives it faster reload, 30% faster reload to be precise. And on top of that, you also have 10% less VETS cost. So overall, in my opinion, the best effects of the weapon aren't even the listed ones. They are more base damage, more ammo capacity, more faster reload, less VETS cost. This weapon is actually packed with a lot of benefits that you won't see on first sight. And yeah, as it turned out, ever since I was trying the build, even when it was very half-assed, like when I'm coming up with a build, oftentimes I do have the relevant perk points that I want to have and everything, so I can quickly switch and start with a relatively min-maxed character. But on this occasion I really had to work a little towards my goal build here. And even with very little investment into the weapon, I found that it was actually pretty good. Just by virtue of having a few VET-centered perks, I was actually doing very great with the weapon. The faster reload is something that really shows when you're using the weapon, and so is the better base damage and the armor penetration. It's actually a really great weapon. I did really enjoy working with it, and turns out it's actually basically the most enjoyable shotgunner I've played so far. So I really like the build. Probably about time to talk a little bit more about the build itself rather than just the weapon, but forgive me, it's just there was a lot to talk about the weapon here. The build itself is very centered around VETS, obviously, and furthermore, I reused a armor set that I was using currently. What was it? It was when I was using the LMG, when I was doing the Deathclaw Hunter. Basically what we're doing here is we are really centered about a P refresh. That's just something we really wanted to focus on, and not necessarily because we needed it to fight primarily, but one other big drawback I had with shotgunners in the past was they're very short ranged, so you are always right in front of enemies and you're taking a lot of damage. It's just a virtue of being close to enemies, you're taking a lot of shots, and since you really wanna focus on that, power armor isn't really a good option. I've done it in the past and it definitely works, but it's yet another compromise. So what I wanted to do here is really try to focus more on survivability rather than damage output. But actually it turned out I could focus relatively well on both of these things. In terms of damage output, we have all the necessary stuff. We're not completely maxed out when it comes to damage perks, but we're certainly very good when it comes to our VETS gameplay here. As you can see, we're doing quite well. And in terms of survivability, the most important thing I did here is I really wanted to try dodgy in how it works nowadays with the 2-second cool up, meaning that dodgy takes away, I think it's 30 or 40 AP when an enemy hits you, and reduces the incoming damage by 40%, I think, or 50, something like that. It's a really good effect to have. However, it really messed with your AP. So basically, when the game came out, I found that whenever I was using VETs, I really didn't want to use dodgy. It just really interrupted the flow of the build. I couldn't use VETs efficiently. But what they did is in a patch, they changed it. It's a while back now. It's old news, but I just want to recap it a little bit. The effect works all the time, but the negative effect of reducing your AP only happens every 2 seconds, or can only happen every 2 seconds. What that means is if you can refresh more AP than 40%, more than 40 AP in 2 seconds, you're basically having infinite dodgy. And well, since we were centered around AP refresh so heavily on this character, this works out very well. And it really makes a big difference. Having dodgy on or not really, it makes a giant difference. Basically what happens is single incoming attacks are basically a nuisance for the most part. The only time we're really getting damage is, we're going to see that soon, when we're surrounded by enemies with ranged attacks. Super mutants, for example. That can really mess you up a little bit. And that's pretty much the only situation where you probably consider to take a stim pack during a fight or something. But other than that, you're really doing well. It's no problem at all. Just murdering some opossums here in order to get some adrenaline going on. And yeah, another big thing I see is shotgunners have a really bad reputation in this game. Biggest reason probably is because you really have to know what you're doing with them. If you're just taking a shotgun and using it in your early levels, they are really underwhelming. One big thing, as I said, you basically have to invest into VETs. I just think using them in free aim, even with this setup here, it's just not ammo efficient. Now, I do see conflicting stories of people saying they need like 12 shots in order to take down a single mob, which it's not as bad in my in my eyes. Like, as you saw here, I just went for some free aim fight. Yeah, even then, 2 shots. If you're getting a headshot, you can even one-shot a lot of things. It's not as terrible as people pointed out. And another big reason why they have such a bad reputation is they're really not doing great against bosses, because yeah, bosses in this game, they're basically just bullet spongy, and yeah, you really start to see a lack of damage output when it comes to high HP bosses with high armor, because you have bad armor penetration on a standard shotgun, and that really shows. You're doing very little to the queen or anything, but using a anti-armor shotgun and focusing on VETS crits, it's not bad at all, really. I mean, you won't solo the Scorched Beast Queen or anything, but rocking up at a Scorched Beast Queen event, you can easily get enough damage in order to get your loot. I'd argue you can do like 4,000 to 5,000 damage during the event with relative ease and relatively little investment when it comes to ammo. That's another big thing about shotgunners. I think it's very easy to manage your ammo consumption. Well, some people may claim that, yeah, you need plastic, which can be a little bit bothersome to get, but, well, just get yourself the scrapper perk and, yeah, loot some laser rifles from these here super mutants or anything. It's really not too bad. You can very efficiently farm ammo in daily ops, so all of that isn't really a big problem. And yeah, I think we're done with the gameplay part of the video so far. I really hope you enjoyed it. As I said in the beginning, I really enjoyed this build. It was actually way more powerful than I expected, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. In terms of the aesthetics, I'm also pretty pleased. I want to use the white wolf fedora for once. And yeah, seems to fit very well with this very fancy shotgun and everything. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it so far, and we're now going to take a look at our mutations first and then go over the equipment and everything. So in terms of mutations, you can see here we do have Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. So Adrenal Reactions, not necessary, but you will see we have another perk that works well in that regard. We do have Nerd Rage. I'm going to show it in a second. Because basically what I wanted to do is I didn't want to bother to use Stimpaks too often during a fight. And yeah, most fights you can just go through the fight, lose some health in the process, end up with like half your health, and that's it. As I said, we do have Adrenal Reaction, not only as a last stand, but it's also an indicator for when we're fighting and see Nerd Rage activated, then we can use a Stimpak and we don't always have to look at our AP. HP, we will actually get a notification, so to speak, if you want to use a Stimpak. And that works well with Adrenal Reaction, pretty straightforward here. Then we do have Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes, very standard combination of mutations when it comes to a vet-centered build, extra agility for more action points, and extra perception means better hit chance, better critical damage through the Eagle Eyes mutation. Very straightforward here. Then we do have the Egghead mutation, which is just there to give us a bit more intelligence to level up faster. We're not the most intelligent build here, and yeah, we end up at around 12 intelligence or something like that, I think, due to the Egghead mutation. And yeah, that's basically all the reason it's there for. It's not necessarily giving us any advantage during a fight or anything. So yeah, it's just here in order to give us a little bit of intelligence. You can live without it, definitely. And then lastly we do have Marsupial and Speed Demon, two mutations I have on basically every single character that I do, but especially Marsupial, it's just convenience perk. Speed Demon on the other hand, very important here. We really want to be fast and agile. It's definitely something that works out very well on the character. We're just always on the move, and that's something that shows. And the faster reload speed syncs up very well with the inherent faster reload speed that comes with the weapons unique modification. And lastly, we do have another perk that increases it also. So let's get into the perks here. As you can see, we do have all the shotgunner perks at rank 2, just giving us a lot of extra damage. Obviously rank 3 of all of them would be very nice to have, but I didn't really feel like I have the points here. I wanted to invest more into other things. Scattershot, one of the more important ones here, even further increasing our reload speed by extra 30%, syncing up very well with, as I just said, the modification on the weapon and with our speed demon mutation. So overall we have a really fast reload speed, and as a side thing, yeah, we do have reduced weight on our shotgun, which is very nice. So you can experiment with some other shotguns, a vampire's version for tanky events like the Sheep Squatch Imposter, for example. Then we do have 2 ranks of Bandolier, just very straightforward, carrying ballistic ammo. Not a lot to talk about here. You can definitely live without it. If you're really just a shotgun centered build and just want to do that, you can definitely live without Bandolier. Having something like 1,000, 2,000 shotgun shells on you doesn't weigh a whole lot even without Bandolier and lasts you for a while. So yeah, this is just for convenience. And lastly, we do have Block On. This is basically the reason why our shotgunner perks are just at rank 2 and not at rank 3, because I really wanted to, as I said during the video, focus a bit more on survivability. And being in close proximity to enemies means that even though we're killing them fast, it can definitely happen that melee enemies can swarm us a little bit, get a hit in, and combining blocker with dodgy, and melee enemies really become relatively redundant. They don't do a whole lot of damage. They can just chip away little portions of your health, but they can't really do any significant amount of damage to you. Then we are Perception, which I decided to leave at rank 9. So we do have relatively good hit chance, especially since we are in relatively close proximity to our enemies, combined with the Eagle Eyes mutation. This seemed like a good sweet spot where we very sufficiently could hit enemies, and yeah, I never felt like I was too imprecise or anything, so that's where I wanted to leave it. We do have Skeet Shooter here to improve our accuracy and spread of the weapon. The spread isn't really anything too beneficial for us for the simple reason that um, yeah, we're not using free aim, and in VETS you have basically no spread. But the accuracy certainly is nice, makes it easier to yet again hit enemies in VETS. And then we have rank 3 of Concentrated Fire, which works very well on semi-automatic weapons. It gives us a big boost on. It's especially useful if we're going to, for example, shoot a um, Scorched Beast. The first few shots have something like 10% hit chance, so they absolutely don't do anything. But sooner or later, within 5 to 6 shots, you can really reliably hit their wings, and even though you don't do any damage at that range, this is just for the Enforcer perk to work. So we're going to see that in a moment, but yeah, Concentrated Fire and obviously at least rank 1 would be absolutely necessary in order to target weak spots. And lastly, we do have Glow Sight. Something you don't really need. The thing is, as I said, I wanted to have relatively, at least a little bit more perception than 6. So I went for this here. It's a convenient perk, not really necessary, but every now and then you do have glowing enemies, and if so, yeah, you really see a difference with Glow Sight, and therefore it's here. You can obviously go for whatever you like, but that's what I went with. Then we do have Endurance, which is relatively low. It has the necessary perks here though. Fireproof was very important in my opinion, very much a staple of pretty much all of my builds. If you don't know what to do with Endurance, Fireproof is never a bad decision. And then we do have Adamantium Skeleton, which on this occasion I would even rank a bit more valuable, for the simple reason that yeah, you're constantly being shot at, and having your limbs crippled is just a nuisance. Can really stop the flow of your combat. You really want to run around, want to be in cover, go out of cover, and close the distance to an enemy relatively fast in order to get a better hit chance in and don't have a range penalty. So therefore, yeah, Adamantium Skeleton really was a good choice in my opinion, and you don't have to be bothered with taking the Stimpaks to repair your limb all the time. And then we go on to Charisma. Very prominent example of 7 Charisma, Tenderizer and Lone Wanderer combined. Not the first time you see it on my character, you will see it oftentimes. Just a nice little sweet spot in my opinion. Lone Wanderer, on this occasion really we take full advantage of both of the effects. 20% less damage is really nice to have, and 30% extra AP regen syncs in very well with the fast AP refresh that we want to have on our character. Then we do have Tenderizer at rank 3. Pretty simple. While we do one-shot a lot of enemies, especially when we're fighting tougher enemies, yeah, Tenderizer works very well. Scorched Beast, Sheep Squatches, Queen Events, Earl Williams. Yeah, you really take a lot of advantage from Tenderizer, so that's why it's there. Then we have Intelligence at 6. As I said, it's boosted a little bit by our Egghead mutation, but the perk points we're using for First Aid and Nerd Rage. So First Aid, pretty straightforward. I didn't really know what to do here, and what it does is you can, even with the diluted Stimpak, regain a lot of your health with just one single Stimpak. So you're not using a lot of your combat time to just go through the animation of using a Stimpak. You can just use one and be fine for the next few minutes again. And then we do have Nerd Rage, which I explained a little bit already. We're not using it often. We're not often in a situation where we're getting down with our health to under 20%. But in tougher fight situations, you really want to focus on using that, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. And the combat is a bit demanding in terms of your concentration. And what Nerd Rage allows us to do is we're basically having a visual indication of when we are in trouble, meaning we can focus completely on a fight, and we will be notified by the Nerd Rage perk if we are at low health at 20%. We're also getting a lot of benefits at that point, meaning that we can react, use a Stimpak, and be fine again. So that's basically the whole reason it is there. You can go for anything else if you wish, but I just like to have the perk active, even though I'm not using a low health build here. Then we do have Agility, one of the most important stats here. We do have rank 2 of Action Girl, rank 2 of Enforcer. This was something I fiddled around a little bit with. What you can actually do is just go for rank 3 of Action Girl and rank 1 of Enforcer. Enforcer is really powerful enough on shotguns that you only need rank 1. I settled in the middle and went for rank 2 of both of these here. More AP refresh yet, and a good chance to cripple a limb, especially in VATS, since if you're hitting a limb in VATS, every one of your shots hits, meaning that this 10% chance to stagger and 20% chance to cripple a limb, you have 8 times for every single pellet of your weapon. So that means one shot from one hit in VATS is basically a safe triple limb. It can happen that it doesn't happen on the first shot, maybe it needs 2 hits, but really for the most part you're crippling a limb within a single shot. That's basically the most powerful thing that shotgunners have for them, is the Enforcer perk. Then we do have White Knight at rank 3, pretty straightforward. You don't need it if you feel like you're swimming in ballistic fiber or anything and you don't care to repair your equipment every now and then. You can leave it out, use something else here. I just find it convenient. It really helps a lot, not having to repair your weapon all of the time, sorry, your armor, and also making repairs cheaper. So I went with it, as I said. Go with whatever you like if you don't need it here, but that's it. Then we do have Adrenaline at rank 5, which is, well, what should I say, more damage. It's a really good perk on basically every single build. If you have the perk points for it, and we do, because we wanted to have agility maxed out in order to use our weapon as efficiently in VATS as possible. Also works very well with our AP refresh, because AP refresh works on a percentage base, not on a absolute base, meaning that you're not refreshing like, for example, 10 action points per second, but you're refreshing like 2% per second. So that's basically how that works, meaning that if you're having more action points to begin with, you're also refreshing a lot more in the same time as you would have with agility 5 or anything. And on top of that, you just have to have way more action points to work with in VATS to begin with. So yeah, high agility means we also have room for adrenaline here, and it really starts to show, really fits with the character, because we're fast paced. We're basically, the best thing you can do is mob killing. That's just something we're very good at, and yeah, a lot of talk about adrenaline, if even though I think no one needs to hear it. Adrenaline is a good perk, and that's why it's here. And then one of the centerpieces of this build, which I really centered it around, Dodgy. Not a lot to talk about here, I already explained it during the gameplay part of the video. Really helps us. It works because our AP refresh is so fast, and it has this 2 seconds cooldown nowadays. So yeah, very beneficial. I wouldn't want to run this character without Dodgy. I did it just in order to see the difference for about an hour or something, and really the amount of healing items where I went through was way higher without Dodgy. It really makes a big difference. So yeah. On to luck. We do have better criticals here. Pretty straightforward. We're using VATS all of the time. So yeah, boosting our critical damage is never a bad idea. And then we have Fall Leaf Clover, which is actually everything we do in order to get more criticals here. I explained it in, I think, even 2 or 3 videos so far. Whenever I'm using a shotgunner in VATS, I don't bother with critical savvy or anything. I mean, if you're going for a bloodied build and have 33 luck anyways, then definitely go for critical savvy. But simply because you can get a safe critical on every second shot. But if you don't have this situation, you're basically always good to use Fall Leaf Clover. It works exceptionally well on shotguns. Similar to why Enforcer works so well, the chance to refill your critical meter happens with every single pellet you're shooting. So the excellent chance to fill your critical meter, which is also already pretty good on every weapon actually, is exceptionally well on this character, because on a shotgun, yeah, you have this excellent chance 8 times per hit. So yeah, very oftentimes you refill your critical meter within a single shot, and very rarely you need more than 2 shots. So yeah, very good perk for shotgunners if you're using VATS. Then we have rank 3 of Class Freak. Pretty straightforward, reducing our negatives. Mainly we're looking to not have so much debuffs to strength and endurance. You could definitely live without it, but yeah, I wasn't quite sure what else to use here. Bloody Mess would be nice. I was tempted to use Luck of the Draw, but um, during my gameplay time, I really found that the weapon has a great condition. It works really well. So absolutely not necessary to go for anything like this here. And the only other thing I was tempted here, and I really wanted to not use it for once on a Vets character, is Grim Reaper Sprint actually. So Grim Reaper Sprint is just one must-have perk I have on every single Vets character, and on this occasion here I found that really I did not have any problem not using it just because our AP refresh is so fast. Yeah, I could definitely live without it, and since I had the chance I just wanted to use a Vets build without Grim Reaper Sprint for once, went through it, and I don't really um, think it was a bad idea actually, but you can definitely do it, would even be more safety, but I never really run out of vets actually. And lastly, we do have rank 2 of Starch Genes, pretty straightforward. We want to keep our mutations, don't get any unnecessary ones, so yeah, it's always there. Then we're going to take a look at our legendary perks, which are very straightforward, so we're not going to need a lot of time here. We do have extra perception, strength, intelligence, luck, and agility, so really most of our legendary perks go into giving us more perks to begin with. Um, Not a lot to talk about here. Those are just necessary in order to get all the perks we want to use. And then I have Ward Rats at rank 2, just for convenience. Honestly, it's absolutely not necessary. Red away is very abundant, but I just like to have it, and that's it. So legendary perks absolutely not exciting on this occasion here. And one thing I forgot to show here is the equipment, so we're going to do that as a last thing. Here it is, our fancy pump action shotgun. You are not able to look at the mods in this screen here. As I said, I just know about the special mods from the Fallout wiki, which isn't always the most reliable source, but really from testing the weapon I found that yeah, it seems to be quite accurate. So yeah, that's it. Really love the design of the weapon, and in my opinion it's one of the coolest unique weapons in the game just because it has so much going for it. I talked a lot about it in the video, but yeah, having some unique effects that really make the weapon stand out compared to other weapons in its class, combined with a very cool skin. Also, you see, you don't have to do a whole lot for a skin in order to make it just distinct. Here they just added some ornaments, a few other colors that you can get elsewhere, and yeah, turns out to be a very cool weapon. And yeah, alter the stats a bit more base damage, and yeah, you have a really cool unique weapon. Even though, as I said, on first glance, the legendary effects are relatively underwhelming. Like, as I said, under anti-armor, nice effect on shotguns, but who really cares for limb damage or damage resistance while aiming? It's just cool because it's 50-50-50, so I think that was what they were going for. Definitely my favorite shotgun in the game, no doubt about it. Haven't used the ghost shotgun yet, but yeah. And then we go on to our armor. Vanguard AP refresh combat chest piece, Vanguard AP refresh left arm, Vanguard AP refresh right arm, a weightless AP refresh left leg, and a 1-star weightless right leg. So yeah, obviously perfect world I would like to have like 5 Vanguard AP refresh pieces. Maybe with Cavalier that would work very well here, but we're not aiming for the stars. Having 4 AP refresh pieces is already pretty nice, and 3 Vanguard pieces as well. So let's just heal up so we see what our defenses are at full health. 340 around when it comes to damage resistance, and around 370 energy resistance, 75 radiation resistance. Pretty solid. We're somewhere around the point of diminishing returns, so definitely could be improved, but not by a gigantic amount. So yeah, we're pretty set here. Works well since we have relatively low health, but yeah, everything combined, we are relatively tanky, have good survivability, and the damage output is great in my opinion. So yeah, one of my favorite builds actually that I played with in a while. Like, I really had a blast with it. It was the most satisfying shotgun I played so far. Mainly because it also not only was powerful but felt like what you want from a shotgunner. You want to run around, one-shot a lot of things, you want to be powerful but not be constantly healing yourself. You really feel like a brute machine. And while I went for this here fancy farm girl style, the weapon really works well on a raider who's just using very ornament weapon. You can do a whole lot in terms of aesthetics here. You can really go for a tank, you can go for a very powerful mercenary or anything who made himself a name. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and we're not really having a theme for this week. Um, I may be going for something, but I'm not quite sure yet. The next build will definitely not be as powerful as this one. What I want to do is I want to experiment with using a laser weapon outside of wets. Um, yeah, because that's just something I never really got to work with, and I just think I found a way. But yeah, we're going to see. And other than that, I will actually. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to make a video about yet another unique legendary weapon that I quite enjoy, which will be the All-Rise Sledgehammer Heavy Super Sledge. But till then, guys, see you. Bye.